Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with daily technical update. It is Thursday the 27th of November and this video is for educational purpose only. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended. Let's start with what's going on in Nvidia. Nvidia that spiked lower a couple of days ago, but managed to close above the support here at 176.76. It was not the strongest support, but nevertheless it did close above, and the reason also for that is that it wasn't the strongest one is because it actually closed below the cloud, closed below the 100 moving average. But look at this, it did not close below the 40 threshold on the RSI, and that is key. So we are still in a positive sentiment. And as you can see here, there's still no divergence on the RSI, indicating we could see higher levels. But I would like to see Nvidia back above the cloud and back above 55 moving average before I call that. And that the next step will then be, can RSI close back above 60 threshold, and especially if it can take out that peak there on the massive selling day that followed after the earnings release at 196. That would be massive if it can close above that. Then I think we'll see a new all-time high on Nvidia. So still in a little bit of a limbo, but it has something to cling its hopes to. And looking at the sector itself, or as a whole here, by the SOXX ETF, that also bounced after closing below the support there. Actually bounced strongly, never gotten below the cloud, or it did below but never closed below, but it was actually negative sentiment, but now has taken out that massive sell-off day there and closed higher, and I think it will continue the next few days. Especially also if we can get RSI to close back above 60 threshold, meaning then it's back in positive sentiment. It looks fairly strong. That is, it has resumed uptrend, so fairly strong there too. What can be noted also is that the rare earth ETFs are moving higher, meaning that the sector as a whole seems to be moving higher, back above the cloud. Still positive sentiment. If it takes out the peaks here from last week, well, then we could see higher levels on the rare earth. And also looking at the alternative energy, here's the alternative or clean energy ETF, could be resuming uptrend, still in a bearish trend, but could resuming uptrend. So keep an eye on some of these. I'm not recommending anything, but some of these clean energy companies, but be careful, they're very volatile. Looking at the Nasdaq 100, and we can see that it closed just above the top of that sell-off day there. It's just the top of, but let's see, 25,236 and 25,223, so close just above it. The next thing we just need is that we need the RSI to close back above 60 threshold. If it does that, then it has confirmed that it's back in a bullish trend, but it looks like that we are above 55 moving average. We have taken out that top peak there. So really something to cling its hope to if you are bullish on the market also. S&P 500 closed above its 6,770. That was the peak up here for that day, and it seems to that we have resumed a bullish trend. RSI just needs to close above 60 threshold. If it does that, then it has further confirmed that we have established a bullish trend. So we could still slide back a little bit. Looking at the Dow Jones index, that also seems to be back in bullish trend. Also just need to get back above 60 threshold to further confirm that. There is still risk for some corrections, so be careful out there. There is some. We are entering, I think it's Thanksgiving. I believe we are closed today in US, so not much to going on today probably. We can also see that the Nasdaq future really not doing anything. It's really just dead there today. Russell 2000, here symbolized by the illustrated by the ETF, back above the cloud. RSI knocking on 60 threshold, likely to push higher. That was some strong move here the past few days. that has really pushed that higher. A little bit a surprise, I would say, but still back in bullish trend. Just need a last confirmation. We could see high levels on Russell 2000. So let's see when market opens again tomorrow, when it's half day, I believe. Moving on to Asia, well, Seng still hovering along below the cloud there. Negative sentiment, so the downside pressure is still there. It needs to get back above the cloud and the 55 moving average to have it a go at establishing a bullish trend. So for now, the downside pressure is still there. The Nikkei, well, that bounced yesterday. This is the future. If it can get back above 50,615, then uptrend is likely to have resumed, and RSI back above 60 threshold will further confirm that. European session yesterday, very strong day indeed, 1.5% up on the EuroStoxx50, and strong bounce. Still positive sentiment, never closed below 40 threshold, meaning it is still in positive sentiment. And if it can get back above 60 threshold and above the falling trend line there, well, then there could be further upside in store for EuroStoxx50. It's probably going to have a fairly quiet day, given that US is, I believe it's closed here on Thanksgiving. I didn't check, sorry about that, but check the financial calendar. But it seems like we are pushing higher there. And if we just add Fibonacci to here, the EuroStoxx50 CFD / the future, well, it has taken a bit more than around 50% of that sell-off back. DAX index yesterday, also quite strong bounce, could continue higher towards 24,000 up here, where we have some cloud resistance. But let's see if we can get the RSI back above 60 threshold and further add to the bullish picture for the rest of the year. There's still a little bit uncertainty here, given that we are actually in a bearish confirmed trend, but it could reverse, and a very strong bounce indeed. Here pre-market basically unchanged. On the FX market, we have euro dollar that spiked higher this morning, almost up to the 786 retracement there at 116.20, and now setting back. Still negative sentiment, as we can see. It didn't break it back above 60 threshold to go into positive. So the downside pressure is still going on. We are still in a bearish trend unless we move back above 116.70. So I think we will see euro dollar sliding lower here in the coming days, unless if it takes out the peak up today here at 116.14. Then I think we'll see push up to test these resistance area here at 116.70. Sterling dollar yesterday crawled higher, took out that peak up there. So short term, a little bit of bullish trend, but there's massive overhead resistance in the 155 moving average coming there down. We have the 200, and then we have the 61.8 retracement there at 132.95, just below 133. RSI seem to be rejected there at the 60 threshold. So let's see what happens throughout the day. Can it get back up, or will it also slide lower here? So keep an eye on that also. Euro sterling, that is sliding lower below the minor support there at 87.60. We have some support here with the 55 moving average coming up at 61.8 retracement there at 87.35. We could dip down to that, possibly down to 87 and the 100 moving average, which is also the 786 retracement. We could see that, but let's see what RSI will do. Will it bounce off, or will it close below? So next few days could be decisive here for euro sterling. I think it will dip lower and then bounce back, but again, there's no promises in the FX markets at all. Dollar yen still hogging the rising trend line there. Still, I say 154.80 support could be tested, the 38.2 retracement area here, but still positive sentiment on the RSI. No divergence. You can see the RSI values are also rising, market rising, so they are in sync, meaning that we are likely to see higher levels eventually. Just we are in a correction phase for now. Euro yen Euro yen also a sideways correction there. Also think we'll see higher levels. We can see RSI higher here than here, meaning that it's also in sync. It's supporting higher levels on Euro yen in the near future. Could be this week, could be going into next week, but still we are a little bit of correction phase, so be careful. If it takes out the lows there from a few days ago at 179.75, well, then we could see a correction down to around 178 and the rising trend line. The Aussie yen pushed higher yesterday. There's divergence here on the RSI, meaning that RSI is declining, market move higher. It's an indication of its uptrend exhaustion. However, if it takes out the peak at 102.50, well, then we are likely to see push much higher, and the RSI is then likely to also cancel or at least break above this falling trend line there. And you can draw trend lines on the RSI just as well on the price graph. Sometimes you see things materialize earlier in the indicators. Sterling yen pushed higher yesterday. Above the falling trend line here, that's what I'm talking about, testing it from the other side. So it is indicating we could push higher in the coming days and weeks, and there is room up to the 2024 peak there around 208. So that is what it's probably aiming for. Aussie dollar, well, being rejected once again at the 100 and the 55 moving average, and I think it will be rejected and slide back here. So we are still caught range bound, but with lower peaks there, as we can see. So to the downside, we should see Aussie dollar. Dollar Canada in a correction phase, as we can see. We can remove this one and add a new one, very short term Fibonacci. It had reached the 61.8 retracement there at 140.30. Currently testing it. Could dip down to the 786 retracement there at 140. I'm not quite sure it will do that. We are still in this bullish trend. Just need to confirm to take out that peak there at 140. And if it does, then we are looking at 142, possibly higher. But the 200 moving average is dragging on it a little bit. There's positive sentiment, no divergence on the RSI, so keep an eye. I think it will turn around eventually, but it's just about a question, I think, how deep it will dip. The Sterling Canada up to the 55 moving average, and 50% of this sell-off there after breaking this deadlock here. Let's see if it can continue. If it takes out 186.20, well, then there's room up to around 187. Key will be RSI being rejected there at 60 threshold the past few days, and we could see it slide back. A little bit of a limbo, despite it has bounced back there strongly. So let's see what it's going to do. But if it starts moving above these levels here, the past few high levels, the past few days, then we could see it establishing a bullish trend. But the 55 moving average is really weighing or pushing it down, kind of putting a lid on it. Euro Swiss setting back a little bit, but we're on a bullish trend. I think eventually it will crawl higher up to around 93, 85, 94 level, possibly higher, unless it slides back and takes out 92, 70 support down here and moves back below the cloud. Then a downtrend is set to resume, but for now it looks fairly strong, positive sentiment supporting higher levels. Dollar Swiss setting back also, but it is in a positive sentiment, and could crawl higher towards the 82 area here on the medium term. We can see 155 moving average also turning around. There's positive sentiment on the RSI indicating higher levels, but yeah, setting back a little bit. Could still set back a little bit further, but I think we'll see it moving higher here within the next few weeks. Dollar index 100 spot and 35, really key to take out. It has set back to the 61.8 retracement there at 99.43, but you see 55 and 100 moving average coming around here, pushing it higher on the medium term, whereas the 200 moving average trying to drag it lower. So there's a battle going on, meaning we could be fairly sideways here for quite some time, but with the bullish undertone, as you can see, higher high, high low, and so on. So we are still in a bullish trend unless it takes out the lows here at 98.87. Then we are into neutral, and with the possibility for a bearish trend. But for now, we are still in a bullish trend. Positive sentiment. There's slightly divergence, as you can see. The RSI values declining. The market moved higher, but I think we will still see it crawling higher here after a correction. Moving on to precious metals. We have the gold that still needs to break out of this triangle-like pattern. It hasn't done it. Hugging the or testing the falling trend line, it needs to break higher. And if it especially takes out a 42.45 here, well, then we are likely to see higher levels towards 4,500. But for now, it's still struggling a little bit. RSI did a closer back. No, it's still in a positive sentiment. So I think we will see it coming up, but it needs to break that falling trend line indeed. Silver very close to test its previous peaks here at 54.40. If it takes it out, well, then there is supposed higher towards 57.50, possibly 60, and we can then say, okay, the latest correction there, well, that actually paves the way to 57.5, 58. Possibly up to 60 eventually. Looks fairly strong on silver, positive sentiment, and no divergence, indicating likely high levels. And also, if it gets back above here, well, then it has a further confirmed bullish trend. The platinum also pushing higher, back above the cloud. RSI currently back above 60 threshold. So it seems like we are in for a move higher on platinum also. It seems like it's just gold, interestingly, that is lacking a little bit, but platinum seems to be pushing higher. There's a little bit resistance here at 1662, but I think it will take it out. Let's see about that. Copper, also a bullish trend, positive sentiment on the RSI. And we will move this one. We are above the cloud, below above all moving areas, and we had this gold cross here, so I think we'll see it pushing higher, and also take out the 527.90 peak there is in the cards. Unless it suddenly closes this gap here and slides back, then we are back in neutral, but for now it looks fairly strong. WTI crude oil in general, still in a bearish trend, just humming sideways at the moment. But we are in a bearish trend for now, and also here on Brent crude oil. The European nat gas also bearish trend with a potential down to 28, 27 support. That goes really long way, and they are not the strongest one by any means. Moving on to the US nat gas, sideways here just below the 470 peak there, 468.8, 469. And as we have talked about so many times, $495 is still in play. But looks a little bit toppish here short term. U.S. Treasury yields, 10-year Treasury yields, lower past few days. 786 retracement, just a few pips above it. Negative sentiment, so there is further risk to the downside. Remove this one here. Let's see what happens. If it takes out the lows from yesterday, well, then we could see it down to these lows here at 393. A little bit bounce here short term is not unlikely. Moving on to the European yields and the EU 10-year sliding back. We talked about it could slide back to the 38.2, but if it gets back below the 264, well, then it has demolished this short-term bullish trend, and we could see lower levels towards 260. UK 10 really dropped sharply yesterday after announcement of the budgets in the UK Parliament. So maybe a little bit of relief for UK. Could test the support down here at 438. The Japanese still in a bullish trend, so not much to talk about. Taking a little bit easier short term, but positive sentiment, no divergence, indicating likely high levels. But there is potential to slide back, maybe testing the rising trend line there. Bitcoin above 91,000, currently above the 38.2 retracement, could crawl higher towards 97,000, maybe 98,000, this region here where we have some resistance. Ethereum also bouncing a little bit. Let's remove this one. That one is not needed anymore. Could bounce up to 32.45, the 38.2 retracement. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and talk to you again tomorrow.